Welcome, everyone. It looks like we managed to reach the final day of this bootcamp week. So again, a quick overview of what happened during the week. So we had 4 days, 4 tutorials from the LearnForge tutorial webpage, 2 tracks for most of the days, 3 out of the 4. There was both a Node.js and the .NET session going on at the same time. We divided the material into 4 sessions, the same for today as well. And during the session, we go through the LearnForge material, and then we give you plenty of time, to finish things on your own. And then we come back, and even, while we are away, you can ask questions, and then we get back to you as soon as we can. So quickly again, the schedule. You're probably aware of this schedule already anyway. So today it's about Design Automation API. A quick overview of what project we are going to end up with. As you can see in the user interface, you will be able to specify some parameters for the given models. We prepared in advance models for all the 4 products which are being supported by Design Automation API, Inventor, Revit, AutoCAD, and 3ds Max as well. So for each of those products, we have a design model which has parameters with width and height. And when you're working with those files, then you will be able to update the full model with the width and height parameters of your choice. So just like during the previous days, this very first session is about intro and setup. So we'll just make sure you have everything in order before you can get started with the actual tutorial, start developing the application. Session 2 is again basic server setup, but this time we are also already adding some application UI. It makes it easier to test the application at the very beginning when you started putting things together. At least if when you're running your application, at least you see some UI. And then session 3, we have prepared the plugin. Well, today actually we are going to skip that because we already prepared the plugin to make things easier. Later on, when you want to modify the plugins, of course, you can do that. But since we are supporting 4 different products, so it would be difficult, I would have to pick one of the products to introduce you, and maybe you're not even interested in that. So we can just use one of the plugins which were already created for the 4 various products that we support. So you can just use those and then create a bundle. And then session 4 is when we are defining the activity programmatically and then running these work items, which will then kick off the processing on our servers in the Design Automation server, and then update the model and then send back the results. So some words about Design Automation API. Probably requires a bit more information than the others. This is one of the newest of the components which are available for people. So probably the audience is less familiar with this. So there are 4 major products which are supported by this service. It's Autodesk Revit, Inventor, 3ds Max, and AutoCAD. And I also created this diagram because at the very beginning, when people were asking about this product, there was some confusion about how exactly it works. Some people imagined that it would provide some kind of very fine-grained access to the various desktop products we have. Like, from your web application, you would be able to call the various Inventor APIs directly. But that's not the case. So hopefully this diagram will clarify things. As you can see on the left side, you can have your mobile app, website, whatever application you may have. Then you have the Design Automation APIs. These are the RESTful APIs that you're going to learn about today. And then we have the various design automation services with the various products like Inventor, AutoCAD, or Revit. And as you can see, just like when you're working on the desktop product itself, let's say you have an inventor add-in, it's pretty much the same. So you could actually take your existing inventor add-in, then just modify it. Obviously, you would have to remove all the user interface related things because on Design Automation Service, there's no UI for any of these products. All these are sort of headless versions of the given desktop product. But as you can see in the diagram, so you have your, which says my code, that would be basically your add-in, or what we call an app bundle in case of the design automation context. And then through the various desktop product APIs, then you will be able to drive the given desktop service. So the Inventor server, AutoCAD server, Revit server, or 3ds Max server. So the way it works is you create your Forge app, you provide the sources. Maybe you're just working with, for example, template model and some kind of inventor template that you want to use when you're creating a new model, or they are in a starting state and you just want to modify them, just like in today's sample. So we have a fully functioning inventor model, for example, and we just want to modify the parameters in that model and then update the model. So you start with some kind of source models and your Forge application, you pass it into Design Automation Service. Whenever you run a work item, which is like a job, then you'll always get back a report as well about it. And so it will, provide information about the exact server, and the server version that was being used, the input parameters that were there, and about the various steps that were going on the design automation server. So, for example, about the step when it's downloading the input models, when it's doing various things, and then also once it's uploading back the result. And then you can get out various derivative outputs. So in case of Inventor as well, you would be able to export the given model in case of, for example, a drawing to PDF, or you can just get the modified Autodesk specific model formats like Inventor model, whether it's a part or assembly or an Inventor drawing or AutoCAD, WGs, 3ds Max or Revit files or Revit families, whatever you created. And the actual process is when you're running it is, so first of all, you have to make your data available, because when the design automation
Yes, me too. Sorry, I'm trying to check with Adam. It seems Adam has disconnected to the meeting. Yeah, I will ask him what happened. Maybe some problem with internet. Yeah. Sorry for that. Thank you for waiting. Please go ahead.
Let's go here. So where was I? I have to go back here. I think it's still recording, right? Okay. Yeah, so sorry about that. So as I was saying, first of all, you have to make sure that you make your data available, the input models that you want to work with. But it could be any of these storage providers, including, of course, our own services. So one of the Autodesk storage services, or even the object storage service, where you can create your applications on private bucket. So that would work just as fine as well. And once you have that, when you're kicking off the work item, then you of course have to provide the URL to those inputs as well. And either make sure that you're providing so-called like pre-signed URLs. So just simply using the URL, the design automation service will be able to download those input files, or send along the access token that would be needed for design automation in order to download it, for example, from Dropbox or Azure. And of course, then once you started the work item, it has the URL to the various input files. It's going to download those input files. Then it's going to run your application's code, which is stored inside the app bundle, which is, as I said, like an add-in basically. And once it's done, it's going to upload the results to the URLs that you also provided in advance. It has the same requirements again. You either has to provide a pre-signed URL so that the design automation server will be able to just simply use it directly, or send along with it the headers for the access token that will be needed in order for design automation to upload the results to the given storage location. Inputs, outputs are not stored, they are downloaded, processed, and discarded. So yeah, you just have to be aware of it. Everything is just running on its own. Once it's done, it's done. It has no, nothing is staying on our server afterwards. And for today, the prerequisites are pretty much the same like it was in the previous days. There will be an extra additional tool that we also need to be using, but you will hear about that in a second. So first of all, we need the Forge account. We need to create the Forge app. Make sure you enable design automation access for it as well. The question, do I need AutoCAD, Inventor, Revit, or 3ds Max? As I mentioned at the beginning, today we are going to provide you with the plugin that you can use no matter which of the 4 products you want to work with. But later on, of course, when you want to modify the functionality that those add-ins provide, you will be able to do it. But in that case, you need probably access to one of the desktop products that you're interested in, and just use that for your development purposes. Otherwise, it would be a bit like shooting in the dark. In theory, you could do that. You could just take the add-in, modify some of the code, compile it, send it up to design automation server, and let's see what happens. But it's a bit complicated that way. So it's much better if you have the given desktop product running locally on your machine, and then you can play with the plugin. So concerning Visual Studio, is the same requirement. So it's Visual Studio 2019 Community Edition is enough, which is freely available for you. Make sure again you have ASP.NET and web development plus the .NET desktop development component selected when you're installing this product. And the extra thing that we'll need today is something called ngrok. So it's a web request tunneling, because when you're running your work item and the work item finished, design automation server will try to call your server to let it know that the processing finished and the files are available. But of course, when we are testing the application locally, running on localhost, an outside server can't just simply send a message to your desktop. It has to go through some kind of proxy, and that would be provided by this ngrok service. So demo time, most of the things are exactly the same like during the previous days. So first of all, you just need to go on, forge.autodesk.com. Make sure you have an Autodesk account that you can use in order to log in to this website. And once you logged in, then you can go on My Apps. And then you can create a new application. And you just have to follow the steps provided on the Learn Forge tutorial. So before you start coding, this will give you all the information, and make sure you're using the values exactly as they are. For example, the callback URL and things like that. Though today we won't need it because we are only using a two-legged authentication, but just to be on the safe side, and so that you're used to also providing the callback URL for three-legged authentication, you can follow that step as well. So when you're creating an application, you can just name it whatever you want. So I'm just going to call it Thursday. And the callback URL should be these. For all the samples that we provide, it tends to be this URL. So not just the tutorials that we went through this week, but also all the other samples which are available on our GitHub repository tend to use the same callback endpoint for three-legged authentication. Your website URL, you can just ignore that. It's up to you if you want to provide something. As I said, it could be perhaps used as a reminder of where this given Forge app is being used. You might have multiple sites, using various Forge services. And if you provide the URL to that given site, it's a reminder where this given Forge application is being used. And for the time being, you can just keep all these components enabled. Later on, as some kind of security layer, you can just simply remove the components that your given Forge application is not going to be using anyway. So it just makes things a bit more secure. And then you can create app, and straight away you will have access to your client ID and client secret. So you can just copy them into your application later. And the Visual Studio access, you can simply go to visualstudio.microsoft.com and then click the download button, and you can go with Community 2019. Many people already have access to a professional or enterprise version. Well, that's perfect. So in that case, you don't have to install anything. And then there will be also the ngrok. So you can just simply, I think we provided the URL for it as well, but you can also simply just look for it and you will find ngrok.com. And then there should be a download link from which you can download it. It doesn't require any installation. You will just need to unwrap it somewhere, and then you will be able to use it. And I'm going to show how to use it anyway once we are running the sample. Yeah, so that's it for the time being. Yes, I think so. So now it's your turn. Go through the same steps, creating your Forge account, make sure you have that, creating your application, downloading the development runtime, and also downloading ngrok. And then I'll be back in 1.5 hours time. And in the meantime, of course, you can always ask questions. I might have to be switching networks again, so I might be off for a second or two, but I will be definitely back. And welcome back. I hope you had enough time to finish this part. If you attended the previous sessions, then probably this was really easy for you because you already had, for example, Visual Studio installed. So the only extra thing you needed was downloading ngrok. So now we can start creating the actual application. So just like on Monday or Tuesday, we need to create a new project, which will be an ASP.NET Core web application using .NET Core 3.1. Then we need to add the environment variables. the client ID and client secret from your application, set up the callback URL, even though we are not using it today. There will be an extra environment variable we need to set up, which is related to the ngrok URL that we are going to be using. Then we need to create the authentication controller, auth controller CS, and we're also going to add straight away some basic UI. So we can just check it right here. This is the modify your model section. Again, here is a quick overview of the application we are going to be creating today. So we can go on create server. There's a bit of information about ngrok, why we need it and how we will be able to call this. You don't really have to remember it at the moment because I'm going to show you it later on when we actually run the application in the last session. So we can go on .NET Core. And actually, that's interesting. I seem to remember that there should have been another tool listed. Yeah, so we're going to have to be adding another tool as well, which is related to add SignalR. So I just created this, small diagram, which might explain, this is how our application is set up. Just like on Monday and Tuesday, we had a similar application. So it has a server-side component, which is going to be communicating with the 4 services. And then on the client side, a JavaScript code, which is running directly inside the browser, will keep talking to our server-side code, which in return will talk to Forge and then get the message and pass it back to the client side. And since we are testing the server side locally, just running it locally on your computer, that's exactly why the Forge service won't be able to just call back to the server side when the work item finished working on your document. That's why we are using ngrok to create a URL address that TA will be able to call, and that ngrok service will then pass on the request to our server-side code. And there's another thing which does not work well, which is the way things tend to be is that the client-side code is talking or making a request to the server, and the server responds. But there's no direct way for the server just simply to talk to the browser, to your JavaScript code directly. And that's exactly why we are using a technology called the SignalR. So that will be an extra component that we are adding to the application. So that when our server side is getting notified by Design Automation Service that the processing, the work item just finished, it sends a request letting us know that the work item finished, then we need a way so that we can just notify the client-side code as well, so we can show something in the user interface for the user to see, so that they can see that the processing finished. Another possibility would be if the client-side code just kept sending requests to the server-side code, which is called polling. So when you keep sending a request to say, has it finished? Has it finished? Has it finished? And each time we just have to reply back to the client side that no, it's not finished yet. And at the end, we can say, yes, it's finished. So it's much nicer if we have like this callback kind of technology, which is in our case, will be SignalR. And I seem to remember that it was listed here already, but it does not seem to be, but we will need to add that anyway to our application. But the steps are similar to what we've done Monday and Tuesday. So we can just go into Visual Studio and say we are creating a new project. So create new project. We will be using the same project type like before. It's taking its time for some reason. It's right on the top, but if it's not there for some reason for you, you can just filter down the possibilities for the language C# and web, and then it should show up. So we are going with ASP.NET Core application. make sure you name it exactly as it's shown here. So for example, with a small f and then capital S, because that's how all the namespaces and everything will be set up. So when you're copying code from the LearnForge website, you know, things wouldn't match up if you named the project something else. And if you still have your project from the previous sessions, then you could, you know, before doing things, you could just rename that project inside the Explorer so that it won't collide with that. So now we can go create. And we don't need to configure for HTTPS. We still don't care about that at the moment. So we can just simply go with an empty project and ASP.NET Core 3.1. And now we have the project. We can add the components. So it will be Autodesk Forge. And you may remember from the previous sessions, you can just simply right-click on the project itself and then say Manage NuGet Packages. And then go to the Browse tab of this component. And then you can start searching for things. So you can go with Autodesk Forge. Let's go with the latest version. And we'll need another thing. We'll also be needing the Autodesk Forge Design Automation. So let's just go with the previous version then, which is compatible with 3.1. I'm not 100% sure which one it was based on the naming. I'm not sure we are following the naming convention of the .NET Core, but we might be. Yeah, so let's just go with 3.0.6. So it seemed like from forum it would be .NET Core 3 or .NET Core some other version. And as I said, I'm not sure it's versioned correctly. But anyway, so we need this other component as well. And here again, you have to select the version which is actually compatible with .NET Core 3.1. In this case, the versioning is pretty straightforward because it's using the same versioning number as the .NET Core version that it's it is compatible with. So we can just simply go with 3.119. It seems like it's a very new version because the other days when we were adding this component, there was only 3.118. Now there's a 3.119, but I think that should work just as well. I'm not sure I pointed it out to you before, but you know, the finished projects are also available. So if there's something really going wrong and it's difficult to figure out what happened with your project, then you will also find a link to the GitHub repos where the finished project is available. And that's exactly what I was doing as well when I was checking one of the settings for the project, just to make sure that we have all the NuGet packages added. So for example, I can see here that this is another package that we would still need to add. And I think we forgot to add it to the documentation here for modifier models. It only lists these three: Autodesk Forge Design Automation, Microsoft ASP.NET Core, MVC Newtons of JSON. But there's another one, which I just mentioned here, which is this one. So we also need the SignalR component that I was talking to you about, you know, which will enable our server to just directly talk to our client-side code to notify it when the processing of our file finished. And here as well, the versioning should be similar to the other component we just added. So I assume we can just simply go with 3.119. Good. And now we can start setting up the environment variables. One would be ASP.NET Core URLs. It might be already part of the project, but let's see what's there. So you can right click on the project and say properties, and then go on the debug section. ASP.NET Core environment is already there, so we need to add this one. I'm already modifying this here, but I will point it out again later on as well. So everywhere it should be HTTP localhost 3000, including here for app URL, and it's the same for the ASP.NET Core URLs as well. You can simply copy the client ID and client secret from your application. So if you go back to view my apps, you can just copy paste the values from here. Watch client secret. And then copying the client secret, you can either make it visible and then copy the value, or you can just simply double click on it. And as you can see, you will have the message saying copied. And we'll also have another value, but we'll only need to use it when we are actually running the application at the very end, when everything is set up, so that we will be able to actually kick off the work item. And then, on the server side, as I said, we will be notified that the work item finished processing a file, and then the server is notifying us. So we only need to provide this value later on, but we can already add it here so that we won't forget about it. And as always, make sure you save straight away, otherwise Visual Studio will completely forget what you are doing. If you start editing another file and save and you come back here, all the settings might be gone. You can have a final look at what it should be looking like. So you can see you have the client secret, ASP.NET Core webhook URL. Which one is tagged, which one is untagged. Make sure app URL is the same as the ASP.NET Core URL, so HTTP localhost port 3000. And now we can start modifying some of the files. So first one is the program.cs. So we just need a couple of namespaces. You can copy it to the clipboard and then go to the last using statement inside the file and just paste it there, always save straight away. Then replace the program.cs main method component with the following. Tells our application to load forged client ID and secret from the environment variables defined above. So you can just simply copy it and make sure you are going directly inside the main function. So just select this single line and replace it. Now we can go into the startup CS file. Again, just copy the content. Make sure you save the program CS straight away. So it seems like we just need to add, again, another using statement. So just go to the last one. And then replace the content of the startup class. So this is the part which is going to be setting up a SignalR. So we can just copy this section as well. You can see we will be changing the contents of configure services and the configure function. So we can just select both of them, highlight both of those functions, and then just replace the content and then save straight away. Good, and now we can set up the authentication controller. So this class will help us get the access token from the 4 services. The one change here, well, I'm just going to set up the content first, and then I talk a bit about it. So what you can do here is, as usual, first create the controllers folder. So you can right-click on the project, say add folder controllers. Then right-click on controllers and add new item, and this will be a class. So we can just go with the selection already there, change the name of this class. And then we can completely replace the content of this. So just select the whole thing and overwrite it with the content you got from the website. And one of the differences you will notice here is that we are not actually exposing any endpoints here. Because in this case, on the client side, we don't need to have the access token ready. Because this time, we are not using the viewer, and the viewer was the only component in the previous samples on Monday and Tuesday, which was actually trying to communicate with the 4 services directly and didn't go through our server, which already has an access token. So in this case, there's no endpoint exposed, and we can just keep using the internal token for exactly this reason, because we don't have to expose the token we are using to the client side anyway. So we only need the internal token in this application. And now we can add a bit of UI as well, so that at least we will be able to run the application. So first of all, we need, again, the www root. And the way you do it is you simply right-click on the project, say add new folder, and you can see it's a folder icon. And as soon as you hit enter, it should turn into a globe icon. So it means that you named that folder correctly. And then we can start adding content to it. We also have a couple of extra folders where we'll be putting some contents. So you can right-click on this www folder, and one of the folders will be the bundle. So this is where we are going to put in the bundle that we want to work with, whether it's a bundle for Inventor, Revit, whichever product you choose. We place it there, and then our application will be able to just check whatever bundles are available there, offer it to the user, and then it will be uploaded to design automation services, so that app bundle can be used by a work item. And then the other folder is the JS folder for our JavaScript file. And then directly inside the root folder, we can create an HTML file, index.html. And then can completely replace the content with what we get from the Learn Forge tutorial website and save it straight away. I forgot to save this authentication controller. Now that's saved too. And you can see what's happening here. We only have a couple of interesting references apart from all the bootstrap things, which will help with the look of the UI. We also have the signaler component, again, which will enable our server side to directly talk to our client side without our client side code making a request to the server. And then we'll also have the reference to the JavaScript file that we are going to be creating in a second. And here you will see the user interface. So as you can see, we expose controls for the 2 parameters that you will be able to control in the specific sample, the width and height inside the given model, the input file that we are going to upload. listing of the existing activities that we will be creating, and then you can kick off the work item using this button. So now we just need to add this JavaScript file, which is forge design automation.js. So I can right click on the JS folder, add new item, and this should be a JavaScript file. And just change the name to forge design automation.js. And then here's the full content, save. So as you can see, it's just setting up the various event handlers or click event handlers for the buttons that we are going to be working with. And the endpoints is going to be calling the API for design automation activities, engines, app bundles, and the rest. We're going to be adding the implementation of those endpoints in the next session. So as you can see, it's just reaching out to the server in order to find out information, for example, what activities are available and things like that. And then the implementation of the button when we are going to call this endpoint in order to start the work item. And this last section is about setting up the connection between the server and the client using this signaler component. So then the server will be able to send these messages that download result is available, or well, on complete, that the work item finished completion, and then you can write some message for the user. And also here we'll provide the link to the actual results. So the file that we created, you can download it from there. And I think that's all for this session. I think we should be able to run the sample as well. Let's just give it a try. There shouldn't be much happening apart from, the user interface coming up if all is working fine, because the other endpoints, which would be actually enabling, the creation of the activities, running the work item, is still not there. That's coming up in the next session, but at least hopefully the user interface should show up.
Yeah, Adam, sorry. Could you make the Visual Studio fonts bigger? I think maybe it's a little.
This
small.
one?
Yeah, this one added in the editor. Yeah. From my side, I think it's a little small. Yeah.
Which one is the option for that? Do you remember?
I think in the tools options, the last one.
Right.
And you might type font in the search box. And yeah, probably.
Like 14.
Yeah, a little bit big.
Is that better? Yeah, should be better, right?
Yeah, better. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay,
thank you.
Great. Well, thanks. Yeah, so I think that's it for this this session. So now it will be your turn. Again, a quick overview of what we went through and what you need to create yourself now. So just create the project, set up the environment variables, modify the startup CS and the program's CS file actually as well. Then create the authentication controller and add the basic UI, which is just the HTML page, and then just JavaScript code, which is going to be communicating with our servers. And then in the meantime, of course, you can always ask questions, and then I will get back to you as soon as I can. Welcome back. I hope, again, you had enough time to finish this section as well of this tutorial. There was one thing that wasn't right, is that my web page, this page of the LearnForge tutorial web page, it was still cached. An old version was still cached in my browser, so it wasn't listing all the necessary components. And in case of today's sample, there was an extra component that you also needed to add, and this was about the signaler component, which again is helping with the communication between our server-side code and the client-side code, so that the server will be able to reach down to the client side using this component. And otherwise, it was just the usual steps, creating a new project, setting up the environment variables, modifying the startup CS file, and also actually the program CS file as well. Setting up the authentication controller, which in this case, you did not need to expose any endpoints to the client because we have no viewer being used on the client side this time around. And then just set up basic UI, adding the HTML page and the JavaScript file, which will be communicating with our server-side code in order to get all the data or design automation related functionality. So hopefully it's all set on your part, and now we can get to the next thing. So now we need to prepare the plugin. As I mentioned, today we are just going to use the bundles which have already been set up. So we can just download it from the GitHub repo. The links will be part of the LearnForge website, and we just have to place it at inside the right folder in our application. And then we will be able to use it, to send it up to design automation and then use this app bundle. And then apart from that, logic for creating an app bundle. So also, setting up the process of actually pushing this app bundle to our server and then onto the design automation server. So let's just go through it here. So the first one is prepare a plugin. So you will get some information about this. Depending on the product you want to support, Inventor, AutoCAD, Revit, or 3ds Max, you have to choose a different engine. Here, if you click on any of these links, it just gives you some information about the given desktop product. I'm going to go with the Inventor link because that's the product API that I'm still supporting, so probably the easiest for me. Is there any other bootcamp topics to create an app bundle? I will get back to that question in a second. So as you can see, you may download the bundle zip into the bundles Node.js or, for example, www bundles.net core folder, and then skip this section, but we'll still need to add, as I said, the code, which will actually be uploading that app bundle to the OSS folder, and then telling OSS or telling Design Automation Service to use that given app bundle. In case of Inventor, it will be actually really simple to create a new app bundle because we already have a Visual Studio template for that as well that you can use. It's right there. But apart from that, you can just go on the download zip. So it will be update IPT params. As you can see, I already have it downloaded. That's why it automatically renamed it to, brackets 3. But anyway, I downloaded from there. And what you will have to do is you have to move it into the folder inside here. So it should be here. I can just open it in File Explorer so I can see where that is. So this is the bundles folder. And then this thing should be inside the downloads folder. It's on my Mac, so I still have to navigate to that, the file that I just downloaded. So I can just copy it, the file I just downloaded, go back to the bundles folder. So in this case, this is the exact folder. So this is the samples folder, then www root, and then bundles. I can just place it there. I can rename it. I can just simply rename this thing because I don't need it. Actually, it doesn't matter what you name it. So you can change the name if you wanted to. That should not make any difference. Yeah, so once we've been through this step, Then now we need to add the code about uploading the app bundle to Design Automation. So in order to do that, we need a Design Automation Controller CS class. So under controllers, we can add this class. Just remove it in the background. So just right click on the controllers folder and then add new item, build their class, and then just change the name to Design Automation Controller. And then this time around, I think there will be quite a few exactly sections where you have to keep adding code because it's quite a long code. So the first section is here. So copy to Clipboard, and then here first off you can just replace the whole thing. And then from then onwards, we will need to be adding more and more content. Actually, it's signposted here where you will have to add the methods. And we might have to do something with the SignalR component as well. We'll see in a second. So going back here, let's see what else we need. So now we will start exposing endpoints for the client-side code. One of them will be the app bundles. So when the client side is calling this endpoint, then it's going to be returning all the app bundles which are available. So as you can see, it just simply checks our folder on the server side, which should be this bundles folder. This is the local bundles folder, and then just search for all the zip files which are there. As you can see, there's a single zip file there that I've just placed there a moment ago. And what else do we need? Also list the available engines so the user can select whether they want to work with Inventor 2020, 2021, or 2022, or Revit engine, whatever engines are available. So we can just copy paste it here underneath the previous function. Again, we are exposing an endpoint. You can see it will be available using an HTTP GET request. And since the replies here are paginated, meaning that if there are loads of engines available, more than 20, I think they are divided up into pages containing 20 engines which are listed. Therefore, we have to keep iterating through using the pagination token in order to get the next page and the next page if needed. And now creating an app bundle. So copy that code as well. So this code then will create the app bundle. And once the app bundle is created, then we will be able to pass the zip file to tell Design Automation API where it's going to find the zip file, where it can download it from to the server. And then the app bundle will be set up. And it's also doing something called, setting up the alias. Probably it will make more sense once I'm actually show one of the tools I have, which would be listing all the app bundles, activities that we created, the various versions, and also the aliases assigned to a given version. And this is the last thing. So as the Design Hub Automation Hub class is now defined inside the controller, open the startup CS, and inside configure at the following line. So now we have to go back to startup.cs. And inside configure, we have to add this line as well. And as always, just keep saving that I keep forgetting. And that should be it. And as it shows it here, if you were to run the sample now, at least the configure button should be working, and it should list the app bundles which are available for us, and also the engines that the Design Automation service is supporting. at the moment. So let's give it a try. Let's run it. Yeah, so it's working here. So you can click on, and you can select the app bundle. Currently, we only have a single app bundle. Oh yeah, I think I did not actually update. I'm using the different keys. The ones that were already available are not correct for my application that ran out of ran out of credits. So what I need to do, I have to use a specific client ID and client secret. Save and then run it again. And this time around, hopefully it should be able to now authenticate and then retrieve the available engines. There you go. Nice working. So as you can see, there are quite a few. I think it's like 21 because there's an extra version on the next page. So in case of Inventor, these are the specific versions that you could be using. So from 2018 to 2022, it's up to you which one you want to use with the given bundle. But do not press create update just yet because it would be trying to set up the activity as well. And I think that's coming up in the next session. So that's when we are going to be implementing that part of the code. So far, the only thing that's really working is that you can click the configure button and then it should list the available app bundles, and it should also list the engines which are being supported by Design Automation Service. So it's now your time to start coding. I see there are a couple of questions, and Xiaodong is probably answering them, but I might get back to those as well. But in the meantime, so these are the steps again that you have to go through. Prepare the plugin, which is basically just downloading the plugin and then adding the code to our project, which will be uploading the plugin to OSS, which is our application's private bucket, and then expose it to the Design Automation server, so it will be able to download the contents from there. Yeah, that's it really. So that's for creating an app bundle. Okay, and then yeah, so once you manage to do that, we'll be back again in almost like 2 hours time, and then we can continue with the last step, and then everything should be set up and it should be working. And then I will show you, how to run the code, how to use ngrok, what's the easiest way to take advantage of that utility.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the last session today. So again, I'm just hoping you managed to finish the last section, which is preparing your plugin and also adding the code, which will be handling uploading the plugin to your application's private bucket and then sharing it with the Design Automation service so it can download that plugin code from there. And now we will be finishing it. So these two items are creating an activity and then executing the work item. So we can go back to the LearnForge website, and we only have these two actions remaining. So define an activity. Activity is basically like a template for the work item that you want to be running. I'm going to show you a utility at the end as well. That might have made sense before, but I'm just going to show you at the end. So we need to add a couple of functions to our existing file. So let's just see where it is. This keeps popping up for some reason. So it should be in the Design Automation Controller class. So first of all, we need the engine attribute. So depending on what engine you want to use, you have to specify a different command line for the activity. And this command line tells the system which file or which executable you want to run, which in this case would be, one of the headless versions of our desktop product, whether it's 3ds Max or Inventor Core Console or AC Core Console for AutoCAD and the rest, and what parameters should be passed in. /i would be the file we want to open. And as you can see, it would be the path of one of the input files that we will add to the work item. So let's start with this one. So copy to clipboard. So it seems like one of the functions. So let's just go to the end of the class and add this. Now we are exposing an endpoint for creating a new activity. Yeah, so this is API for design automation activities. So again, we can just paste it under this other function. And as you can see, when you're defining an activity, you have to specify the input files you want to work with. In this case, the input file would be the design file itself. And then the input JSON would be containing, it's a JSON file that will be containing the given parameters that what we want to modify in the given model. And the output file would be the same model file that we passed in as input. So in case of an Inventor file, you would be getting out an Inventor file. In case of an AutoCAD file, it would be an AutoCAD file. So that's the activity creation. And we also want to list for the user what activities are available, so then they can select the required activity. And for this as well, we'll have an endpoint exposed on the server side under this path. So as you can see, we are just simply calling this endpoint from the SDK, which gets a list of all the available activities. It's just showing that at the moment, if you would be running the sample, you don't have to run it just yet. We're going to finish it in a second anyway. Then you would be able to already click the define activity button because it's all hooked up now. But we can just continue before that. So now we will also add the code for actually running a work item, which is based on the template of an activity. So some more things to add to our design automation controller class. Here is this one. As you can see, it's just exposing another endpoint, which is an HTTP post for the work items. So it will be requiring from the client side to get the width and height parameter values. It will also pass in the browser connection ID. It's been misspelled for some reason, but just leave it as it is. It's okay. So this browser connection ID is generated when the connection between the client side and the server side is set up using this SignalR component. You may remember that. So that will provide us with an ID that we are going to be using for the work item. And well, we just have to set up, the payload, specify all the parameters that we want to be using. We're also adding the authorization, the access token that will be needed in order to access the file from the bucket. And then we are generating the JSON file just basically dynamically. So instead of uploading the JSON file somewhere, maybe next to the other input file in our application's private bucket, we can also just simply do it like this. So just pass it in as a string, and design automation will generate a JSON file out of it on the design automation server that we can then load in our app bundle and then read the content to find out what parameter values we will be using. And the same for the output file. Again, we are specifying the location in which bucket we want to upload the file to and what the file name should be inside that bucket. And also we provide the access token needed in order to upload the file into that bucket. And we also add the callback URL. And this is what we need the ngrok for, so that the design automation service will be able to access our own server, which is currently running locally on our machine. And that's really it. So you should have everything there. Let's see if there's anything else left here. Yeah, so now this is the part where we are actually handling the callback. Once the work item finished, design automation server is now calling us through the ngrok URL while we are testing this application. Then this is the endpoint where the call will be coming into. So we need to handle that as well. So let's just make sure I'm putting it at the right place. So this is where we are handling the call. We added this as well. Always make sure you're saving everything. Yeah, so hub context, this object will let us then, we are inside the server-side code here, right? So once we got this callback from the design automation server, now we want to ping the client side to let it know that the work item finished. So we can do it through this hub context object. It will keep track of the clients or the browsers which are connected to this server that we're running. And then we can send these various messages which will be caught on the client side, the onComplete message, and then a download wizard message as well, which will provide the link to the design file that we just generated on the design automation server, and that got uploaded to the given bucket in our own private bucket. And this is the last thing, which is for clearing the account, which will basically delete the forge app. And well, so if you want to start from scratch, setting up your app bundle and setting up activities, then it might make things easier if you have this option as well. So let's add that here as well. And let's build everything. And now you will be able to run this sample. In case you don't have the right sample file, because it needs to be a specific file or a specific design that has these given parameters in it, because otherwise, obviously, design automation service won't be able to change the parameters. So the best thing is if you just find the sample file that you want to work with. I'm going to test it with an inventor model. I'm pretty sure I already have it locally, but anyway, I'm going to download it from here. So I can just download it. Yeah, as you can see, I already have it actually. That's why it got renamed again. So inventor sample file 1. And we should be able to run it, but well, let's see, was there anything else? Yeah, I think that's it. So, but before I run that, I also want to show you a couple of the utilities that could be useful. One of them I already mentioned previously during one of the tutorials, is that if you're working with Visual Studio Code, not Visual Studio, but Visual Studio Code, it's a different development environment. It's quite popular for web developers. Then we have a utility or extension called Autodesk Forge tools. You can easily just find it, and then you can install it into Visual Studio Code. In which case, once you set up the client ID and client secret for it, then you should be able to access, the design automation related things as well, the app bundles that you already specified, the activities, and so on. And there's also another utility, which is called, so I was already using this Oss Manager I showed you on Monday. So if you were here, you've seen it already. And it has a counterpart, which is for DA, so for design automation. So if I just copy this whole thing, Oss Manager, and there's one for DA Manager, which was design automation. So I've just changed OSS to DA. And then I log in. Then I will be able to see all the personal app bundles I have. It seems like using that account, I already have actually an app bundle. I might as well just delete it. There are also a couple of app bundles which are shared. These are coming from the engineering team. You cannot, you can actually, so I correct it. So you actually can share your own app bundles and activities with other users as well. I think you just have to specify the client ID of the apps that you want to share these app bundles and activities with. But anyway, coming back here, as you can see, whenever you upload these app bundles, you can have multiple versions of them. It's the same for activities as well. But before you can work with those versions, you always have to assign an alias to it. I just consider aliases as like tags. So it actually makes things really easy because you can just keep uploading new versions, and your application is always looking at a given the given version with a given alias. So even if I uploaded a new version, it wouldn't affect in any way my applications or websites which are currently running, because they always check for a given alias. So, but let's just delete this one because I'm going to upload a new version using the sample. So I can just select this and then click delete. First I have to probably delete this, and then maybe I can delete this. Okay, so I have to delete the whole thing. Yes, not just the latest version. So same with activities. I have my personal ones and whatever is shared by the engineering team. Because it has a single version, I have to just delete the whole thing. There you go, so it's done. And using this utility, I would also be able to actually run one of the activities, specify the input parameters, and then run a work item based on the selected activity. You might see it in a second. But now let's go back to the sample quickly. So we should be able to run it now. Someone is asking about the version. So when you're specifying the app bundle or the activity, you can specify the version you want to use, and it should be listed somewhere. We just have to find it. Well, basically, in our case, in case of the sample, we are actually listing the available engine versions, and then in the user interface, the user can select it, and we are just going to run with that. Of course, you could do it programmatically as well. So instead of letting the user select the engine we want to work with, you would just set it programmatically, automatically here for the engine name. So getting back to the sample, here we are. Now I can click on configure. I already have the app bundle in the right folder in the www root folder, as you may remember. It's right here, tells you where. And I'm going to go, I'm not sure what the sample file is. I would assume it's probably invented 2021. I don't think we upgraded it to 2022. So I'm just going to go with this version. And now create update, and hopefully it should create everything. Let's see what's going on in case I missed something. Oh, that's nothing. That's interesting. It seems to be okay. Of course. Yeah. So one more thing that I forgot to talk about is, of course, the ngrok. And for me, the easiest way to run ngrok is, once you have it downloaded. Yeah, I knew I would forget something. So in my case, I downloaded it directly to the C. So it's right here, and it's in ngrok. So probably the easiest way to set up so that it's really easy to run it, one after the other, because after a while it's going to time out, so you have to restart it again. It's easiest if you have this ngrok exe, and then from it you can simply create a shortcut. And once you've done that, then you can modify the shortcut to make sure that it has the correct, input parameters or command line arguments. All these command line arguments are specified on the LearnForge tutorials website, so you will find it. So it would look like this: ngrok exe, http 3000, which is the port we are going to be using. And the next one is the host header. We have to set that as well, otherwise there are some issues going on. So what I can do is now I can just simply double click this shortcut on the desktop whenever I need to use ngrok with my application and I need a new instance of it. And each time it's going to provide a different URL that you can use. So you can just simply copy it, this forwarding URL. As you can see, it will pass it on to localhost 3000, which is exactly what we need. So you can just copy this and then go back to the project. And you may remember that we added an extra environment variable that I said we did not need at that very moment. And this is the Forge webhook URL. So you can just set the value here, make sure you save everything, and then you can run it again. So basically, I'm pretty sure that the app bundle and activity got set up. We just did not get the notification because the server could not reach our computer without, letting it go through ngrok. So if I wanted to go back here, I just refresh this utility that I was using previously. You may remember I deleted the app bundle and the activities as well, right? So there should be nothing there. But it is there because our application did update and did create this app bundle and did create the activity. We just didn't get the notification about it in the user interface. Oh, wait a second, we don't have the activity. So why don't we have the activity? That should have been there. So maybe there's a callback first and then it goes on to the activity. So let's just set everything back to beginning. So I'm going to delete this again. And now, since we are handling the callback, so things should be going better, I can just click on configure. Same thing again, I will run with Inventor 2021. And hopefully this time we should be seeing some messages coming back. That's interesting. Yeah, it all seems to be going fine. Let's see what's going on. So we got this far, starting processing, getting the aliases, adding the aliases. It went through the app bundles, and we got back the app bundles, and we generated the aliases for it. So we got that far. I'm not sure why the activity generation does not seem to be happening. It just took loads of time for some reason. I don't know. Maybe you may remember I had some network issues today, so maybe my internet is a bit slow. That's not very nice. But anyway, so as you can see, we have the app bundle and activity available. So now if I go back to this utility that I was showing you before, hopefully when I reload this, so the app bundle is there. I mean, it was there already. So let's just, and the activity is there as well. And this is the first version, and we named it dev. So that's the alias. And inside the utility, if you wanted to run this work item, this is what you could do. You just select the activity with the given alias, and then you could just click run it, and then you could specify the URLs for the given files that you want to pass in, and then you would be able to just click create, and it would run the work item. Another thing you can do, I'm going to show you in a second, is that you could actually monitor a work item. So if you started a work item and you know the ID of the work item, you can also get information about the given work items through here as well. But let's go back here. So let's go with 12, choose file, and I think I still have it on my inventor sample file. Isn't there another one as well? There it is, inventor sample file. Let's just go with that one. I only have a single activity available, so it's pretty easy to choose. That's what we are going to go with. Now it should be creating, making sure that we have the given bucket on the object storage service. It's uploading the input file there, and then passing the URL of that file to design automation when kicking off the work item. So it will be able to download the input file from there, then update the parameters inside it, and then upload the result back into the same bucket. So let's see how things are going. So at the moment, it's just still uploading the file to the bucket on the object storage service. Yeah, so someone is asking about version number limits. Yes, there is a number limit, which is 100. So you just have to keep the number of versions of app bundles and activities you have under the number 100. But as you've seen, using, for example, this utility that I showed you, you can easily just delete the versions that you don't need anymore. Or you can, of course, do that programmatically as well. So unfortunately, my network is slow. It's so typical, right? It's always during demos. Well, it's so Akid is asking about iLogic. Yeah, so you could have an app bundle which is running a specific iLogic rule, or maybe your iLogic rule is hooked up to certain parameter modifications, in which case it will be kicked off automatically. So you don't have to do anything special. So for example, if you have an iLogic rule which is monitoring the bits parameter modification, and you have the app bundle which is modifying the value of the width parameter, your iLogic code will run automatically, just like on desktop. Yeah, so unfortunately, it keeps me waiting. What I can do in the meantime, I can actually show you the buckets tools as well. So that should be the bucket which was created for design automation. And there is the input file. The input file is there already. So that's interesting. So I'm not sure why we are stuck here. But anyway, you can see this input file is there as well. We can even try to translate it using the model derivative service, just to see everything is okay with the input file. Yeah, so it's just a simple draw that the same model that I keep using. So the model itself, the input model seems to be fine. And what's this other one? When I was just running one of the samples, I think it generated automatically. Yeah, so that one is a transient one, and well, both of them are transient. Yeah. So I'm not 100% sure why we are stuck here. Maybe my internet is just this slow, even though the file got uploaded already. So now it should be kicking off the work item. Interesting. Let's see just quickly again if there are any other messages. Ah, there was something wrong. Ah, there was something with the work items. Okay, so let's look inside the work item and let's see what is going on. So when it's trying to kick off the work item, so it's here. So the post work item, this is where it should be coming in. Ah, there is actually an error here. Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure what was here, but anyway, we can just simply debug into it. Let's see what's going on. So start work item again. And it already uploaded it or checked it, so we can just step through. So this is what the browser connection ID should look like. Why is it not showing? Yeah, so it's basically just some string. File save path. So far, so good. We still have everything. We have the token. We have to make sure that we have the bucket. Bucket async. That should come up with an error because the bucket already exists. So we go into the catch, which is fine. That's expected. Now we should be uploading the file. Oh, I see. So maybe my internet was that slow that maybe it was previously uploaded in the bucket. I didn't actually check. Probably I should have just deleted the, no, it go through it. So we have it there. So now we will kick off the work item. We are passing on the URL to the input file with the authorization access token for it as well. We are generating the JSON file and just pass it in directly as a string as part of the URL. Then also the URL for the output file we need to specify. And then we are kicking off the work item. Yeah, just wait a second. So work item specimen. So you should hit it here. Forge webhook URL. Yep. So for some reason it's not hitting it. Just have to double check the inputs which are going into there. So I can just jump through this whole thing because everything else seems to be going fine. The uploading input file, we did get through that. So the only problem is with the body that we are sending to the work item. So we don't need this one. Instead of using configure, I want to do it programmatically. There are some questions in the meantime I'm looking at. So let's see what it looks like. Activity ID, update apt parent dev seems to be correct. JSON file, put file URL. All seems to be correct. Complete URL, Ngrok API, Forge, Corporate Design Automation ID. Is that I'm not sure. Is that Ngrok URL looks correct? Did I change the wrong? Oh no, that is correct. That's what it looks like. No, 49. Probably I should have put there like a try catch and just check what the error is because it doesn't seem to be coming in here. But anyway, when we are hitting that line, iDictionary headers, Boolean throw an error. Make sure your apps were uploaded correctly. And app bundles could not be found. Okay, that's strange. My app bundle wasn't uploaded correctly. Okay, well, let's try to upload the thing again. So I can just go back to the utility that I had here. I can just refresh it. Check the app bundles I have. Okay, just delete it. So you can just select the main thing, boom, delete. Maybe something was wrong with, actually I could have just checked it because that's one of the other things you can do in this utility is that you can actually check the actual zip file, which was uploaded as the app bundle, and then, try to unzip it locally and check if everything was, uploaded correctly. So let's go back to the sample here. Run IIS again. Did I specify the values before? Maybe that was the issue. Anyway. So just go back IPT param, inventor 2021, create update. Hopefully this time around it will be a bit quicker. Yeah, I'm not sure if last time around I actually specified width and height when I was running the activity. I might have been a bit too fast. So that might have been causing issues. Well, welcome to the life of a developer. You always run into issues. So in the meantime, I'm also looking at questions. I mean, in code, where to specify. So I think I answered that. Is there a limit? Yeah, so we managed to upload it, which is good. So let's run it again. I'm hoping that's what the issue was, that I did not actually select the correct, did not specify the parameters at that given moment. So I have those, I have the file, I have the given activity selected. So start work item. Yeah, we hit this section. I will just double check again the arguments, mainly the parameter. So input JSON. No, it was there. I do remember it was there. So then what else could be the problem? We have one headers, the authorization there. It all seems to be good. No, it doesn't like it. I will have to look further into it, what exactly is going wrong. Make sure your apps, the app bundles binary could not be found. That's what it keeps saying. That's interesting. So there might be some issue as the sample is uploading the app bundle. Yeah, but yeah, so, okay, so I can show you actually with the utility what I was talking about. So actually when you're on the DA manager, so now you refresh, you log in, you have the app bundles, right? And someone was asking about nicknames, aliases. So basically, as I said, that's exactly why I'm representing aliases like a tag, because that's what they are in my view. So you can just keep adding tags, multiple tags to the same version as well if you wanted to. So if I select that, so I can add an alias, whatever, and then I will be able to reference a given version through this alias. So I can say update app param app bundle and then plus sign, whatever. This is what I want to use, whichever version that is associated with, that's what I want to use. And as you keep uploading more and more versions, you can just move these tags around. So later on, once you have a new version, let's say the number 2, and you tested it and it works as it should be, then you can just delete the tag from here and add it to the other version, and your application will start using that new web bundle or new activity. So, but coming back to here, when you click on this, you should also get back the URL for the package. It's always automatically generated and it's only available, I don't know, just for a short period of time. So each time I click on it and ask Design Automation to give me a URL for to the package content, then it will generate a new URL for that. So I can just copy paste that, and then I can download the zip, and then I should be able to. What have I done? HTTPS. That's interesting. Why? Specified key does not exist. Apps from app bundle 1. Yeah, something strange is going on here. I might have to talk to engineering about this. Because everything seems to be fine. You know, if you did not upload the zip properly, I think that happened to me before. I think even then I should be able to, you know, just get something because it generates something for it, unless I didn't even upload anything at all. So I would have to check. I think it should go into the same bucket. No, this is just the input sample file. Interesting. So when I'm uploading the app bundle, yeah, so if I open containing thingy, so as you can see, just based on the size, you can see that it is fine. So the zip itself is okay, but it seems like maybe it's not getting uploaded as part of the app bundle. So when you're creating the app bundle, you just specify what you want to have. And then the design automation service will tell you where to upload the file. And this is where the upload should be happening. So something might be going wrong right there. Yeah, so this new app version that when we created the app, it will, you know, design automation will tell us where to upload it and what sort of parameters we should specify the request in order to upload the app bundle. So that should end up here. That's strange. I just try it one more time, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Delete. Does it actually work for any of you? Or is it just on my side where something went wrong with it? Map alias is still using there. No, the engine version is not dependent on the name of the activity. It has to be whatever is listed in the sample, as you've seen the list of engine versions, right? So it would say Autodesk.inventor or something like that plus 2021. So that's what you have to specify if you want to use Inventor 2021. So if I run, let's just start it again. So this should be hitting this part, and that's when it should be uploading the file. Maybe if my internet connection is so slow, it sort of gets timed out. That's the only thing I can think of. So maybe that's why it does not actually get uploaded. So again, create an update, and it should be hitting that section. New app version, upload parameters, endpoint. As you can see, somewhere on Amazon, where we should be able to upload the file. Package zip file, that seems to be correct. So repos, for sample, the bundles, update IPT param zip, that's all correct. So let's just see if it hits it here. Maybe it times out. Another thing, I can check if I'm using the same client IDs or by accident I'm using a different one. AAZ, JD. Yeah, those are the correct ones. Okay. Well, yeah, something to look into. But basically, what should happen is, because when you're running the sample, there would be some messages about it, and at the end, it should give you the full report about about the work item, and then also provide a link to the new file that we created. Yeah, so in theory, it uploaded everything. It says it's right there, dev, which is the v1. AAZ, yeah, that's where we are. And now the app bundle should be there. Nah, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. And then of course, when we try to run it, it's not going to run because it seems like for some reason the app bundle is not uploaded correctly, which is strange. Let me see. Yeah, because suddenly I was wondering if I enabled the given components for my forger, but obviously I did, because otherwise I would not even be able to create app bundles or even just list the activities. And here we are where we try to create the work item. Easy to the dev, there's one activity dev. Seems all correct. No, it doesn't like it. The server returned non-success status. An app bundle's binary could not be found. So I don't know what to do with it. It does seem like the app bundle for some reason does not get uploaded. As I said, maybe something with my internet, or I don't really know. But so I guess the question is for you now is it working for anyone? Can you let me know if it's working for you? Do we need to have the same name for the app bundle, folder, and the key? What do you mean by the key? The app bundle folder could be anything. I mean, from the point of view that it has to be, our server-side application code is always looking for this folder, and then the zip will be just uploaded. I'm not sure I understand the question. Have same name for the app bundle folder and the key. But anyway, so if you come back to this part, I mean, this part of the application is working. That you come back here. So when you want to change the the engine that you want to use, it has to be one of these strings that you use for the engine name. So this has to be it. So like Autodesk.inventor 2022 or something like that. Are restricted to the generation of a single output file in the same format of the original one. There are a lot of workflows where you want to generate files or different file formats. No. So you can have multiple input files, multiple output files. You could also do it that, you know, the input file could be a zip file, which would automatically get extracted to the design automation server, and then you can use those. And you can also generate a zip file. So, you know, that's more flexible. If you don't know in advance how many output files you're going to generate, then the zip file is easier. But if you know in advance, I'm going to generate a DWG file, a PDF file, an IPT file, something like that, you can just add them as part of the activity. So when you specified your activity, you know, those could be part of the, so if I'm, so as you can see here, when you click on a given activity, like this dev that we just created, these are the parameters that we have. We have two input files, the input file, which would be, in my case, the inventor file, and the JSON, which would contain the parameters that we want to change and their values, and also the output file. But you could have multiple of these. So you could have multiple output files, multiple input files. It's up to you. Yeah, so the sample file for the inventor one, it should be here when you're, so if you go back here, modify your models, and then execute work item, .NET Core, run and debug, and then there's the link to the sample files. You can probably find it directly here as well. Anyway, so we got this far. So creating an activity, executing a work item. I hope you all managed to finish your thing while I was trying to get this to work. And later on as well, if you have any questions, you can always reach us on Stack Overflow. Just make sure you're using the correct tags, depending on the technology or component that you have questions about. That's it. Okay, well, so that's it for today. Again, if you need any help, the best thing is if you just simply go on Stack Overflow and log the questions, making sure you're using the correct tag, in which case it will automatically end up in our support system. So we'll be notified about it, and then we can get back to you directly on Stack Overflow. So thanks everyone for joining, and then goodbye.
Thanks, Adam.